Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about trouble in paradise. It seems as if the Department of Justice, subservient as it is to Donald Trump and his political priorities, has not been bringing enough voter fraud cases to satisfy him and Stephen Miller. And there is chafing about it over at the White House. Now, the number one point to make here is the DOJ, even when it's being completely political and weaponized, it's got to put facts in a complaint. It's got to find someone to charge. And the whole notion that underlies Trump's fanatic obsession with the 2020 election and the SAVE Act is that there is fraud in the land, and the facts don't seem to bear it out. Okay, so we have, reports about the kind of tension back and forth. Those always bear looking at. I mean, from my point of view, from the outside, it certainly seems as if the DOJ and Pam Bondi are doing backflips on demand, including complete abandonments of the Constitution. On the other hand, reports continue, whispers from Washington, that Bondi is not in Trump's good graces. And of course, very few people, I'm struggling to think of even one, maybe Miller, have posted a long tenure with Trump without him at some point decapitating them, only to bring them back, perhaps. But he always does bite the hands that feed him. So that's significant just to keep track of the sort of Bondi watch. And Todd Blanche, who's been more and more the front man, the nasty guy, giving these politically tinged messages and acting all tough and brutal in a way that completely is inconsistent with what a deputy attorney general is supposed to do, especially in a pending case and investigation where he doesn't hesitate to dirty people up, contrary to the most fundamental principles of the department. Anyway, this reporting also comes with a proposed possible solution on the side of the White House, an executive order, says Trump, and he comes out just today and says, basically, if the department can't get it together to presumably bring dozens and dozens of voter fraud lawsuits, and if, as is the case, the SAVE Act is not going to pass the Congress because the Dems and a couple Republicans are standing strong and not letting debate close, not letting there be 60 votes for so-called cloture, and that's the filibuster idea. If that won't work and the DOJ won't work, the real immediate talk is for an executive order. Now, of course, that's going to be subject to an immediate legal challenge because elections are none of the executive's business. They're the basic structural allocation of power in the Constitution is first and foremost the states, and then second, subject to a congressional check, as the Constitution says, and as the founders explain. Hamilton in Federalist 59 says we don't want the states to just sit on their hands and actually keep an election from going forward. So Congress needs to have the ability sometimes to step in, but none of that posits any role at all for the president. So if he tries to act unilaterally here, there's going to be a quick and substantial challenge. You know, how they frame it and what the U.S. Supreme Court probably does with it are not easy to predict in advance. And the Supreme Court, which just today had the big opinion striking down his signature tariffs, has seemed to be a lot more solicitous and given him a lot more victories in pure political cases, and that's what this would be. All right. Among these reports are indications of just they're there and beating the bushes and trying to make these cases. So last month, they tried to have an investigation into voter fraud in Nevada, but they couldn't get him, right? So Nevada, he loses by 33,000 votes. Definitely the order goes out. Just comb through every little bit of dirt on the ground, find what you can. And the FBI did, and they found 40, count them, 40 potential instances of non-citizens voting. That's the thing they really want to zero in on. It would also anchor his putative executive order or claim of authority in a stronger presidential power about immigration. Little inconvenient problem. It all just seems to be a complete, I would say, urban legend, but I think that's giving it too much credence, because what it really is a widely propagated lie from all the people who have been with him since 2020, and he has, in fact, continued to say himself the investigation was rigged. There's basically nothing there. So in Nevada, the Secretary of State said, the closure without charges shows that Republicans' focus on non-citizen voting is a non-issue and a red herring, and it really seems to be. Are they going to be able to take that non-issue and red herring, and since they can't bring cases, try to frame some kind of executive order that would do much of what SAVE Act would do? You certainly can't put it past them. And remember what SAVE would do: basically make everyone show up with birth certificate or passport. Studies have shown, by the way, that less than half the people in the country have a valid passport now. There's all kinds of reasons. It's been lost. It's been outdated, or there's, some, you never applied for it in the first place. In other words, the effort in SAVE and in this possible executive order to make people show up is really like a new Jim Crow law to single out less well-heeled, less organized, less prosperous voters and make it harder for them. All under the guise, again, of, we have these immigrants voting. There's just no indication of it. And think about it for a second. It's a felony. You want to stay in this country. Why in the world would you try to fake your way into this? It's the quickest way to get caught and be deported immediately. Plus, it's a crime, as I say. So the whole thing really does rest, it seems to me, on a total myth. Okay. Nevertheless, you have Harmit Dillon of the Civil Rights Division saying there are thousands of non-citizens in voter rolls. All claims like that seem not to bear out. And in particular, there seems to be not a scintilla of proof that any state in the 2020 election was pivotally swayed by ineligible, fraudulent voters. The Nevada case of maybe 40, maybe more like 3, really prevails across the board. So that's part of why SAVE isn't passing now in the Senate, and will be the kind of legal landscape and backdrop to any executive order that Trump tries to issue, as he said he's going to, notwithstanding that the constitutional scheme is clear. States first, then Congress, if necessary, and zip, nothing, nada, for the administration and the president. That's the kind of barrier he's loved to break through in the past. See if he tries it again. But if so, it would all be a bogus power based on a bogus theory of fraud. And really, in the area, as I've said before, where Trump is at his most vehement, determined on the one hand, and dangerous on the other, to try to get a chokehold on the democracy by arming himself to overturn close elections. Be afraid, be vigilant, be all over this effort and ready to jump on it. Talk to you later. Thanks for watching Talking Feds. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. And for a lot more content, all of my essays, ad-free podcasts, and weekly Ask Me Anything Q&A sessions, check out the Talking Feds Substack and please subscribe there as well. Talk to you later.